Hello everyone and welcome back to the LSI F1 World Championship. We're here today for the Brazilian Grand Prix, round 7 of the championship. Ricky crosses the line. What's it going to be for the Spaniard? P2 there for them, right behind Charlie, currently taking that top spot. We have 7 minutes on the clock. We have got a bit of a technical difficulty, so we'll try and get that double check, but JJ is going to be in the session at least, so that is good. Now Charlie currently, as I just said, is on top. We've got Ricky, Heisler, Frantic, Devon in P5. I have been told that there will be a very high chance of rain at the beginning of the race. Whether it will be heavy or not, I don't know, but it could go on until the midpoint of this race, and we might see some more rain at the very end. Maybe, just maybe. So it's going to be a mixed one. It's going to be a tough one, and there can be a lot of changes in this race. So this is going to be one that's going to be pretty exciting throughout. Something to note, we're not going to have either Williams here today, so it does mean that that 31-point advantage that Williams have over Mercedes is going to go down. Both Mercedes are arriving here today at Interlagos. That is, of course, Nifo, who started the season with the Merc team. And then we've got Charlie, who's joined midway through the season and looking to try and be as strong as they can. Both scoring decent amount of points in USA, of course, on Charlie's first race back in LSI. We've just had Simatson go up to P4 just momentarily there. We're going to get Frantic going on another lap. We're going to get Nifo crossing the line, and that is going to be a P4 to take away from Simatson immediately. The margins are pretty close. We've got 5 minutes on the clock. Anything can change, and anyone can get that top spot. But yeah, brilliant lap there. 5 minutes on the clock, plenty of time. It's a short lap, so that's why there's plenty of time. But also to add to that is that it's a very, very difficult outlap because the traffic can be incredibly disastrous. It's a short circuit, which means that everybody's going to be closer together, and you could have a few problems here and there if you're not careful, especially in this mid sector. It's really hard for cars to move out the way, and as a driver on a lap, you have to kind of work around all of that. We've got Frantic, who seem to be pretty quick in time trial, and I can hopefully show some good pace here. They're not going to be racing tomorrow in the F1.5 Championship, where they are being a permanent driver. So is Sir Maxon. So that's going to definitely mix a few things up. That's a bit of a loss of control as they went up the hill, as the car gets very light towards turn 8 as you exit 7. But anyway, as I want to say again, Frantic, he's got a lot of work to do when they get back for the next race that they can attend, of course, but we'll see. So the championships in both tiers are going to be very, very interesting this weekend. We've got Igor crossing the line. What's it going to be for the Serbian driver? P9 for them right now. Peanuts, a permanent driver now for Aston Martin, as Frantic moves permanently to F1.5 and away from Haas. They do leave their 74 points in the Constructors' Championship to go to Aston, but at least they have a teammate for the rest of the season. Igor, Peanut's teammate, who had a brilliant race here last time around, but unfortunately missed out on the victory to JJ as they went up to the line. Will they do that again? We'll find out. Peanuts is going to start their lap now, and it might be their final lap of the session as you go through turn 2 and through to 3. On the throttle as hard as you possibly can, holding it left to minimise that track distance. DRS available, and then you get ready for 4. 4's been a little bit of a tricky one this game. You want to brake as late as you can, but it's so difficult. You get a bit of understeer, and you've got to try and get back on the throttle, but you don't want to be too early on the throttle if you're on that inside curve. It can be so unstable. Sending it through the double right-hander, which is also a little bit more unstable, I feel, in recent times. They managed to navigate it quite nicely. And up the hill, it goes Peanuts. Bit of understeer on the entry to 11 as they go through turn 12 and finally through turn 13. I believe this is 13. It's something like that. Anyway, final few corners, and up to the line. DRS available for the Aston Martin using all of the battery. What's it going to be for Peanuts? It's going to be P8 just behind Devon Young and a little bit ahead of Tom Robb at the moment. The other cars out on laps is Frantic, who is going again potentially on this lap, but they're actually going a little bit slowly. They don't have too much energy in that car, so I don't think they're going to be going for an improvement lap. And they are saving in that middle sector. So that will be that for Frantic, quite possibly, unless they can save. They are saving now, so I think they're going to go for one final run on a scrub set of tyres. Jericho Willis is trying to see what they can do here. We'll quickly hop on board with them and see if they're setting a quicker lap time in the first sector. They do go up by about 300th of a second, more or less. They've got a bit more time to find if they want to get things together. It must be in the middle and later stage of the lap where they've lost most of their time, as they get a big snap right there through turn 8. That's a difficult one. Frantic does finish their session. That will be it there for Jericho Willis as well. I might see them get another lap in. We'll have to wait and see how that one goes. We've got Heischler, however, on their final lap of qualifying. This is to try and get to that top spot ahead of Charlie and get an advantage over Ticey, who hasn't turned up today's race, and neither has Senna. So Williams are completely off guard. Not only will Mercedes be able to catch up in the constructors, but also will McLaren, and it's going to be an even closer battle than before. 31 points ahead in the championship is Williams, ahead of Mercedes, 32 points ahead of McLaren, but only 1 point difference between the drivers. Heischler 1 point behind Ticey, and Heischler is looking to try and be the new championship leader after this weekend. Charlie currently tops the times. Heischler, final few corners, DRS up to the line, not got much ERS to use. Hopefully it doesn't hinder them too much, and it's going to be provisional pole at 17.180. What are the responses going to be as Ricky crosses the line? They're not going to be able to get further up, but they're going again, and they will go for one final run. Heischler is done in qualifying. We've got Niffo, who's coming through the next few corners to try and have a go. Charlie is going to go, and they will not make it for qualifying. They will back off, and it's all over. Charlie P2 or lower. What will happen with Simaxon? Simaxon is invalidated their lap. They're not going to be able to improve. Jericho Willis right behind, but it's then going to be Devon Young who's going to try and see if they can get themselves into the top 5. Can they compete against their teammate as well? It's not going to be enough. They're just going to stay where they are, and we're going to see the Aston Martin of EagerPro also finish their session. That will be it for them. Niffo currently P4. They're not invalid. They're still going, but it's not going to be an improvement. It is going to be what it is. I don't think we'll see any more improvements except from this man. Ricky will go for the final time in qualifying. What's it going to be for the Spanish driver? It's going to be a P3. They gave it their best shot, but they didn't quite improve. Heischler takes pole position in Sao Paulo with Charlie in P2. Then we've got Ricky, Niffo, Frantic, Simaxon, Igor, Devon, Peanuts, Tom, Nabil, Jericho Willis, and JJ will be starting last after not setting or not being able to start and joining late in the session. Absolutely incredible right there. Heischler manages to get the job done. But look at that margin between P2 and 3. That is minuscule. Awesome job. Now, just going to double check a few things. Hopefully JJ can get into this race. If not, then unfortunately that's how it'll have to go. And they have the option to either stay in the race or retire their car. I would suggest staying in the race with the championship the way it is. Heischler takes pole, and it's within a tenth for the top 3. That's the rest of the race director. That was the rest of the grid as well. We'll go through it one more time. Heischler takes pole, Charlie in P2, and Ricky in P3. We'll be back for the race. We'll see you in a bit. Ready? Hold! Go! Who's going to get it into turn one? We are away in the wet conditions in Brazil. Heischler to the outside line, but Charlie has got the inside and should be able to take it. It's not going to be so simple as they come back at him. Absolutely phenomenal there from Heischler, but here comes Niffo, the master of race starts, has got themselves into P3. Frantic can't do anything about it. Niffo is on the inside line, and they're going to get ahead, and they're going side by side with the race leader to try and take the lead. No, it's not. It's Charlie right there. It's actually Niffo on the outside line. Niffo did a great job, though, in P3. Frantic, P4, holds on nicely. Then we've got Ricky, who wasn't quite able to make it work off the line. They must have lost the position. That's allowed them to get through. That's Devon with damage as they try to go for the overtake on Igor, but unfortunately it's not going to work out. In the wet conditions they might be able to hold on a little bit better than usual with the damage, but it's not going to be easy at all, and they've got both Aston Martins trying to come through very, very soon. Can they slot in? No, they're going to have to give way to the second Aston, and maybe we'll see the racing ball come through as well. What a shame there for Devon Young in the early stages, but we're already going to start lap 2, and Heischler leads the way into the first corner now in these intermediate conditions. We've got Niffo very close to the back of their teammate, but not looking to attack the Polish driver just yet, at least. We'll see how it goes. Of course, Niffo fighting for the Drivers' Championship as well. They are fairly close, so they could try and get something done, potentially. Frantic sat right behind Ricky. Doesn't have the damage, so the Red Bull currently that is in the best position currently to get a good result. Then we've got Sir Maxon sitting behind. We've got Igor with Devon Young, who is looking like he's going to get an impatient racing ball from the Bill behind him very, very shortly, but there won't actually be any overtake, so they're just going to stay where they are for now. In this middle section is where it's going to be a bit more of a struggle, but that being said, as it's so low speed that the suspension is all that matters in this kind of area of the circuit. It's possible, and they're doing a very good job at staying where they are. The damage is going to be frustrating to drive with, but it's not worth pitting just yet. They do need to make sure that they set it to yes to change their damage in the pit lane, though otherwise it could be a bit of a problem. Then we have Nabil JJ, who might be on the default setup. Hopefully they're not. And then we've got Tom Robb and Jericho Willis a little bit further on behind. Heischler now leads the way on lap 3. No DRS because of this condition. We've got Niffo having a look, but they've actually backed off, moving a little bit left and right. I'm not entirely sure what their body language was there from the car. Didn't quite get to see what was happening before, so maybe we missed something just there. But now Frantic's looking very toasty, and we've got Ricky in the wall. I don't know if they'll have got damage. We're going to have a quick look on board and see. It could be very much so. It's not damage there for the other Red Bull, but it is a bit of pride damage, and of course a spin. That is not what we want to see, and in the meantime the other Red Bull loses a position as Nabil makes it through. What a shame right there. What a shame indeed. Nabil's got a bit of work to do to try and catch up to DRS range to the cars ahead, which they should be able to do, as the cars ahead are all in a bunched up pack in this middle sector. Look at how close they are. Charlie's basically pushing Heischler through the corners. This is the circuit that Heischler won his first ever sprint race at, and it is also the circuit that Charlie won their first ever F1.5 race. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do. It is also the circuit that Charlie has won their first ever race in LSI completely, I believe. Let's see what we can do from Charlie. Are they going to go over to the lead? They are going to send it to the inside line. This is going to be a switch up, but they can't quite get there under braking. Are they going to have a go on the switchback, though? Looks like they might have it on the exit. They're going to have the better traction on the wider line in these conditions, and they should be able to get the job done. But Heischler is quick in the straight line and now has the inside into turn 4, and that is an awesome moment right there from Heischler, holding on with defensive masterclass despite being on a disadvantaged exit as they went through turn 2 and 3. That's going to be Frantic just on their way to the grass, but they managed to avoid it, slot in behind the Sauber and not worry about it too much. That's a lucky escape there. Obviously they've lost one position which they won't be happy about, but at least it's only one position and no more. The two Astons right here. Then we do have Nabil, who is caught about a 10th in the lap, but he does need to find a bit more if he wants to get that DRS range for later on. Of course, DRS doesn't kick in until we've got that dry part of the circuit, but it's still important to be within 1 second for when the dry does kick in. Now, we're looking at having quite a low percentage as we get further into the race, but it would possibly still be the halfway mark that we could be on these intermediate tyres. So they've got to try and hold on for the long run. And so is Devon Young with that damage, of course, which is going to be incredibly frustrating. But they are still close to the pack. And maybe an advantage that they have right now is that no one has DRS to gain massively in a straight line. That's Charlie to the inside line on Heischler as they go side by side once again, wheel to wheel through turn 5. It can be so slippery even in these wet conditions. It just makes it so tough. And now to the outside line, Charlie's forcing the space. He has to give it up, does Heischler, but they still have the inside line and they're going to be able to take the racing line as well. Nifo wants to have a go at maybe making a move but can't quite do anything about it, just sitting back and having to watch this happen. Heischler goes off the circuit, off the racing line slightly I should say. Charlie's going to try and swoop through the outside line. The outside will eventually be powerful enough, but there's contact as Heischler's trying to hold on to that inside. It's not going to work. He's managed to just about hold on to second place though. I think Heischler's very lucky to do that. Simaxon gets brilliant momentum and is now going to look to try and challenge a bit further up. He's going to pressurize Nifo to going for an attacking move. Heischler has to be pressurized into an attacking move as well. Nifo on the inside line, getting as close as he can to his teammate without making contact, but it's not going to be enough. Simaxon will make that move into P3, and Charlie, it's crunch time. It looks like they're going to try and make it that P1, but again in a straight line. They just can't compete with that McLaren car, and they have to let it go. Simaxon makes a mistake. Nifo reacts. Frantic is going to try and come through, but they back off. Everyone is getting a little bit twitchy, a little bit shovey, and it is only lap 6. We've got a long way to go in this race. They cannot afford to do this too much. They've got to relax, let things happen, and then start to go for some moves when everything goes strategy-wise. That being said, strategy-wise will be kicking in very soon because, I don't know if you noticed, but we've got a bone dry track. I think the track surface being dry could be a visual glitch because I think we've seen in the past that has been the case. Unfortunately, the bill off in the background, hopefully they're good to go. But it definitely has stopped raining, so we could see a pit stop within the next lap or two. No one going into the pit lane now, so it is a visual glitch at the moment, or it's just that they're trying to hope that they can stay a little bit longer out on track. We do have Peanuts, Frantic, all in the pit lane. Nabil, JJ, Jericho Willis also in the pit lane. So maybe it's not so much of a bug. That is going to be JJ retiring in the pit lane, our first retirement of the evening. That is voluntarily, however. So nothing will change. These guys are all in a train right now. They're just going to have to try and not fight each other at this stage. They have to work together. Otherwise, they're going to get severely undercut by the other cars. They're probably going to get undercut by the other cars anyway. But if they can just make sure that they minimize that time loss, then they should be good to go. But look how slow they're going on this compound of tyre. And then if we go and have a look at the likes of Frantic and Ricky, or not Ricky actually, it hasn't pitted, Frantic right now, look through the section of circuit that we've just been through. It's still pretty difficult, I'll be honest, so it is a visual glitch. It looks like they're just going very slowly, but it is going to be still quite tricky to deal with. Maybe that slick tyre is actually not as fast, and we could see possibly these guys stay out for another lap. We will see these guys stay out for another lap. So unfortunately, it's another game bug that has been exposed by the game. Nifo and Eagle, however, they decide to make it a pit stop, and they might be able to get the jump on the top 3 that are now unleashed on their own. That is Heischler, Charlie, Simaxon. Heischler continues to lead the way after a brilliant defense from the McLaren driver, and they're just not able to get through, has been Charlie. So they just have to sit and watch ahead. I say that they almost had a look at going into the lead, but it didn't quite work out. They may have led for a lap or something, I can't quite remember. My memory doesn't go much further than a lap back, to be honest. It does. I've just completely forgotten, and I do apologise. Anyway, we have to focus back on this because the pit lane is going to be coming up soon. That is the DRS enabled. Now, Zingy used to say, when DRS is enabled, that is the moment where you make the pit stop. That could be the best call. Will it be the best call, though? These guys have got a few corners to try and get back to the pit lane after that call has just been made. Charlie's very close to the back of the McLaren. Would they want to try and go for an overtake, though? Probably not. They're spamming the battery as they head to the pit lane. They are all going to be doing so, but they have to make sure that they don't hit each other as Charlie goes straight into the back of Heichler and almost goes into the back of him again. So Maxon tries to take avoiding action and just sits back and is not going to get themselves front wing damage, but these guys will come through. Nifo is going to be the lead car on the pit stops. Frantic went a little bit too early. Igor follows on behind the Mercedes driver, who will lead into the first corner. The two leaders are going to have the inside line. It's going to be Igor Pro getting a lovely toe. He's going to get that slingshot, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And that has been a brilliant performance there from the top two. Simaxon, who didn't have the best pit lane entry, is going to end up side by side here with these guys. Igor's going to make it side by side. Surely Simaxon isn't going to be able to hold on with cold tyres. I think Nifo's going to try and push through if he can. The outside line will be theirs, but Simaxon's going to try and cut across, and they do just about. And that is going to be frustrating there for these guys. They didn't quite get it right as they're stuck behind the cold tyre runner after they've just had one lap under. But that is going to be incredibly frustrating right there for Nifo, for Igor. 2.3 seconds, but ultimately it's just the wrong decision. And following Zingy's advice, Heifler and Charlie made it work with a decent pit lane entry as well. So Maxon, on the other hand, had a bit more of an issue. Now, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot to play for. Heifler and Charlie, however, 1.9 seconds. They're going to be in a very good position right now. DRS, ERS, and that is going to be a slingshot there for Simaxon. Igor's just going to have to let that one happen, and these guys will try and work together to see if they can catch up to the top two. But in the meantime, Charlie and Heichler, they've been pushing a lot, and Charlie now leads as they must have got a slingshot. Peanuts gets the time penalty, so does Tom Robb, unfortunately getting another time penalty in this race, which is a little bit disappointing. But it is what it is, and they retire voluntarily in the pit lane. It's just not been their day so far. We're down to 11 cars, and of course at the back of the grid we've got Devon Young, who has got that front wing repaired, and they're good to go to the end of the Grand Prix. Hopefully they can have a bit of a better second stage of the race, and get back into this battle. Yerko Willis just up ahead of them. Then we've got Ricky 3 seconds behind Nabil, then 2 seconds behind Nabil is to Peanuts. Then we've got Peanuts and Frantic on their own with Nifo, Igor and Simaxon, and then we've got the race leaders. So everybody pitted at different points, or they've had an incident, and that's what split them. But we've got quite a few battles at various parts of the circuit. It's just how big the battle is, I don't quite know. Igor's not going to be making that move into the first corner. We're just going to stay as we are for all of these guys. We could see Frantic, however, and Peanuts switching positions. The old teammates from earlier on in this season, and now fighting it out on the circuit. Lap 11 out of 36, they got a long way to go to do this. DRS available, and Frantic will be going once again right back through. They're working together to try and get the advantage of a slipstream train. Could we see Devon Young go for a move here on Jericho Willis? Are they going to try and send it to the inside line? They will do so. They're going to send it nice and hard, and they just about get the job done. Squirming all over on the exit, but they keep it stable and in a straight line, and now they've got to try and push. They're slightly low on the battery as they went into the corner, but now they're good to go, pushing those track limits for sure. We're going to have a quick look at the track limit situation regarding the time penalties, of course, on each of the cars. We'll quickly go here. We'll see also Nifo pass Simaxon. So that's an interesting one, as these guys have managed to catch up to the race leaders. The race leaders either fighting too hard, or the other guys just cooking a lot behind them. Nifo goes for a fastest lap. Charlie leads the way. but Heischler is kind of on the inside a little bit, which hindered them a little bit. I don't know what happened. There must have been contact, surely. Looking at time penalty, frantic 13 seconds, 3-3-3 for Peanuts, Nabil, and Devon. Other than that, it's all good to go, and we'll go to the tyre situation now. This is what they've opted for. Charlie and Heischler on the hards, whereas we've got Igor on the medium. So has Sir Maxon done the same. Maybe Nifo has just been able to allow these guys to work with their medium tyres so they can catch up, and that explains it. We just were looking a little bit further down the order to see what was going on, and now it's all changed. Charlie 6/10 ahead, as Heischler isn't quite finding the same momentum as their fellow pit stopper on the earlier laps, of course. Purple last middle sector, and they're looking to possibly go for a fastest lap here if they can push it. No DRS it will be, but it will be DRS for Heischler. And as a sweaty circuit with a big DRS train Brazil is, it's going to be so tough to compete, as with everybody being carried along in the DRS train, Simaxon has then taken that pole. It looked like, or fastest lap I should say, Igor was going to have it, but no, it was quickly traded a little bit further behind. Charlie's going defensive as Heischler goes through. Charlie lets that happen and slots in behind P2. They know what they're doing. They're trying to make sure that they can secure a top 2 position, because Igor is going to be right there. Sir Maxon's going to be right there. But more importantly, they have to hope that Nifo stays behind for as long as possible, because they're on the same tyre. They're going to be on exactly the same strategy. They've got to make sure that that other Mercedes isn't in the battle. Realistically, as a team's perspective, Charlie's got to try and get Nifo in this battle. And of course, for the Drivers' Championship, with Taisi not arriving, Charlie does need Nifo to try and finish ahead of Heischler. That's the ideal scenario. Whether that will be the case, I don't quite know, as that is Sir Maxon. DRS, ERS isn't going to be available. They're very close to the back of Igor, but Igor, he is pretty quick in the straight line at the moment and looking aggressive, but not in a position to be able to attack. Maybe more of a defensive throw, as they were looking to the inside line there. No ERS for those two drivers. Charlie, are they going to be going for that move once again? They're not going to be going into turn 4, but it is going to be an attacking scenario there for Igor, as he's being pressured by Samaxon. That means that he has to pressure Charlie. Now, Nifo just holding on behind and watching this occur up in front. Heischler, he's the one controlling the pace. He can turn his battery off now he's leading and just let everyone oblige behind. They can't do anything about it because they want to get that DRS so they can get that move. That's how he's got that full battery and no one else behind has. They can't afford to lose Heischler for the DRS, whereas he can just make sure that everyone's backed up. And that's now the top 5 all in a pack. Who's going to come into first corner in the lead of the Grand Prix? Well, Charlie has got a lot of speed in that car, and they're going to take it. They're going to take the opportunity. They will lead. Igor not going to be there. DRS will be available for Heischler, and he's going to be in a great position to retake that move immediately with a lot of ERS in that car as well. Igor might be dragged along in this, but I don't think so. It's not going to be so straightforward. They're going to have the inside line as Igor. They are going to make it work. Charlie turns in as much as they possibly can legally, but now they don't have the advantage, and they're going to slot in behind. Simaxon allows it to happen, and that was a very, very, very nice move there for Igor on the medium tyre, and he's looking pretty quick. He wants to try and have a go here at Heischler if he can. I think Igor might be sending it to the inside in a few corners time. DRS will be all his, and he might have a great opportunity into the first corner. Whether he can nail the first complex, I don't know, but lap 7 old medium tyres, that is where they start to drop off. So he's got to be careful, and he's got to hope that he has enough straight line speed to be able to make this move. He might be able to make it out of Heischler, but Charlie might try and pressurize as well. No, Heischler with the DRS and the ERS that he managed to save earlier on, it does mean that Igor won't have the ability to. A second phase, however, might be a possibility unless they try and wait for the next part of the technical section to have it on the brakes. Charlie has got a bit of pressure from his fellow countrymen, but they're not actually going to go for that inside line. They're just going to let things happen. Igor is trying to put the pressure on, and he might be able to get the job done here. It might be possible to get that P1 and try and make these medium tyres work sooner rather than later. They're not going to go for it though. They let it happen, and maybe they're just waiting for the next corner as we'll go up through turn 10. Will it be possible in the braking? They're just going to let it be. They're not going to go for that move. They're comfortable in P2. I'm not sure if they're thinking this is a mistake on the medium tyre and they're just trying to make the best out of a bad situation, or if they're happy with that medium tyre. It's an interesting one, because most people have gone for that medium. So maybe they are expecting more rain to kick in later, whereas Heischler, Charlie and Nifo, also Ricky, have just assumed that it won't kick in later. That is going to be Igor having to go slightly defensive to make sure Charlie doesn't go through, as they need to make sure that they stay ahead for as long as they possibly can on this medium tyre. Everyone is pretty bunched up. Unfortunately, Devon in the meantime has had further issues. Or is that Ricky? I think it is Devon, unfortunately, not having the best of races today, with the damage, of course, earlier on. The top 5 stay as they are. Frantic and Peanuts, however, they're switching every lap and just trying their best to gain as much as they can in this train scenario. That is a virtual safety car, and that will be because of, I don't know what. We're going to go through the cars. That's Igor. It's Igor, unfortunately, who's had a big loss right there. We were just taking a short break, but unfortunately, the Serbian driver is going to be in trouble. Would we see Sumaxon dive into the pit lane here and get a fresh set of tyres on? I don't know, but we do know that Igor's going to have to go into the pit lane, and what a shame right there. A great position. We didn't quite get to see what the incident was. We'll be able to see it post-race, so we'll have to keep our eyes out for that one afterwards. What a shame right there for Igor. New front wing. We're going to get a few people behind also going into the pit lane. Peanuts goes into the pit lane behind his teammate, and it's Frantic also going into the pit lane. So a fresh set of medium tyres to go to the end of this Grand Prix for Igor. That might not be a bad idea, actually. It might be a bit of a blessing in disguise, although they are going to be effectively a whole pit stop behind, because yes, they don't lose the entirety of a pit stop because they're under virtual safety car, but they did lose a bit of time before, which does mean that they probably lose out most of it. That is a very weird glitch visually from earlier on, but I don't know how that's happened. It is what it is. He's now back out on track. We're going to have Devon Young, then we're going to have Frantic, and then Peanuts, who's basically 2 seconds behind. No drive-through penalties, which is always good to see. And now we continue racing once again, now with only a top 4. Charlie makes that move on lap 19 out of 36. Now we once again are going green flag racing. The green car is right behind on an older set of medium tyres. Nifo has to try and think about getting past this Sauber car, because all of a sudden, I know it's not much, but that gap is 4 tenths instead of 3. They've managed to catch up in one corner, so, you know, it's fluctuating, but it's still something that they have to think about. That is a big moment there for Charlie. Heischler's not going to hop on it, but they are going to hop on the back of the gearbox and make contact with the back of Charlie's car. Hopefully Heischler doesn't have damage, but he just wasn't expecting the speed that Charlie was carrying, as they were just a little bit lacking on the momentum due to the mistake. That was a big moment right there that could have ended up a lot worse. Luckily, we're all good to go. Heischler just needs to try and get recouped, and as long as they haven't got damage, they'll be able to perform absolutely fine for this race. DRS will be available, and they're probably going to be pressurized to make a move. They are going to be making that move. Will Simaxon try and come through on that medium tyre? They're not going to be able to do so. That is Charlie looking to the inside line. I don't know if they were trying to slot in behind, but they ended up making contact with the rear of Heischler, which could have gone horribly wrong in a corner like that when you're going on the left-hand side. And that is going to be Simaxon trying to make it work. Will they fight for P1? They will fight for P1. The inside line is going to be available. Heischler tries to hold on, but the ERS is going to be used, and they want to make it that lead position if they can. They take the wider line to give the space. Heischler has to slow down and let it happen. That is Simaxon leading the F1 Grand Prix. Nifo just watches everything happen as everything switches up. It was all very pushy and shovey and touch and go, but Simaxon now leads on that medium tyre. Are they going to have to go for a set of softs, or are they just trying to get into the lead and make sure everybody is dictated by their tyre pace, because that tyre is going to be very tricky towards the end. They do seem to be a driver that likes to go for the softer compounds, which may work in certain scenarios, it may not work in others. DRS, ERS, not going to be used DRS, but DRS will be available for Heischler. No move just yet, but it will be done into turn 4, and maybe, just maybe, Heischler can get ahead and Simaxon, but Charlie can't get ahead. That would be perfect if they could do that, because then they'd be able to have a bit of a gap between themselves and one of their rivals on the same tyre, but they don't push for it. They let it go. Simaxon is going to lead once again, and this time they're going to lead a full lap of the Grand Prix. So that is a pretty good effort right there from Simaxon. Manages to get the job done quite late on into the stint, I will be honest with you, but the job is done at least. And now they lead once again. A phenomenal job, I should say. But 12 lap old medium tyres. I really don't see what's going to happen here for their race. It's not going to look ideal. They can probably make it to the end of the Grand Prix. I'm praying. That being said, they've got a long way to go, so maybe not. They're just having to push to their maximum. Would they go for a set of mediums in a couple of laps' time, or are they going to wait for a set of softs? Heischler is going to make that move. Charlie's not going to have the chance to do so, and this is what I'm thinking about. Will Simaxon be able to stay behind in the DRS? If Heischler can use the ERS, so can Simaxon, but no move happen, then that is the best case scenario for Heischler. But Charlie is not willing to let that happen. They can see exactly what's going on, and they had to make that move. Simaxon lets it happen, and they just move on in their own ways. Lovely stuff indeed. No moves will be attempted in the middle sector. Middle sector overtakes are for race starts, for safety car restarts, and for final laps. Whether you would want to go for a move in the final lap in that area, I don't quite know, because you would want to kind of be behind effectively. But we'll see. It could change later on. Lap 22, about to be lap 23 out of 36. The top 4 are all on their own. Ricky, after their very difficult start to this race, has managed to find themselves in P5, which is a brilliant effort. Honestly, that is a really, really good effort, despite having their spin quite early on. We've got Nifo and Simaxon side by side. We've got Charlie and Heischler side by side. Nifo is now finally ahead of Simaxon on that tyre. Are they going to try and push even more to get ahead of Heischler? They're not, but that is Charlie going through. All 4 cars were very, very, very interesting right there, looking very racy, side by side. A pack of 4 effectively, just going a 2x2, which is very impressive. Is actually damage there for Nifo. I don't know where they got that. It must have been just then, and maybe that's why they went for that move. Unless they got the damage from Simaxon, that damage was maybe because Heischler and Nifo came together. That's maybe what allowed Charlie to go through. I don't know, unless we just didn't see it and they actually got damage earlier on. But that's an interesting one. It's also interesting that Charlie's trying to break away once again, but not able to do enough, as the DRS will bring Heischler back into play as before. Now, Nifo's going to have to try and do all of this with damage. As these guys are in a train, it's not so difficult for them, of course, being in that train. But Simaxon, a little bit more difficult with that tyre situation, of course. We'll have to see how that one goes. But it is going to be a big mistake there for Nifo, who goes into the back of Heisler very slightly. And now they're going to have to let... No, they're not going to let Simaxon go through. Simaxon's going to let Nifo go through. Will Nifo be able to catch back up to the top two as Charlie makes a bit of a mistake under braking? Heisler made a mistake through the mid part of turn 7 and 8. And it does allow Nifo to somehow catch back up, and he's 3/10 behind the race leader. I don't know what's happening here, but Heisler is just not having the confidence now Charlie's got ahead of them. So it's changing a lot. Everything is swaying. If he's ahead, he is looking very strong, and his defense is pretty good. But when he's behind, just doesn't seem to have the ability to stay in a comfortable margin. They'll be able to make that gap once again 4, maybe even 3/10 as they get into the first corner. Say 2. That's a pretty good effort right there for Heisler. But Nifo is still close, and with damage, I don't know, like if we didn't see that damage, then maybe they would be a little bit further up the order at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're on currently just over 11 laps of this Grand Prix remaining. We will get to that 11 lap mark very, very shortly. Frantic and Peanuts in the meantime continue to switch their positions as they once again battle. Igor had to make that pit stop work. Those tyres are pretty fresh and pretty nice. They'll be able to catch up to Ricky a little bit, but with the gap that they've got, it's going to be so difficult to actually deal with. That is Nabil also going to be in that battle as these guys are trying to catch up to the medium tyre runner, who is going to be on a very old tyre at this stage of the Grand Prix. Simaxon, despite having the struggling tyre compound, is still within this battle. This is good information for him tomorrow, of course, especially where one of his championship rivals isn't going to be racing. That is, of course, Frantic. Jericho Willis will be there, however, and Jericho Willis is currently on the grid, getting some good data for the race tomorrow as well. Charlie leads the way. Heisler is nice and close, but not making moves, but could be in a position to do so, as Charlie is saving battery, inviting Heisler to go through, but Heisler is also saving battery and just lets things go. That is Simaxon, currently sitting in P4, not able to do anything about it. Nifo saves the battery, as they know that they can do, as the cars ahead aren't going anywhere. Devin Young plonks on the soft tyre and goes for the fastest lap after a difficult race. Maybe they could find themselves into the points later on, and that would be 2 points to their championship. But it's a pretty disappointing one with such a competitive circuit that allows everybody to be nice and close. Having the damage that they had early on in the Grand Prix is, it's not what you want to see for any driver on the grid. And it kind of brings the momentum down. And when you come to the F1 tier, where you don't really get that many safety cars, it makes it even harder for anyone to compete with. So yeah, it's just one of them things. Also one of them things is track extensions as Charlie goes off the circuit. Heisler is going to be happy with that. If they're making a mistake going off the circuit, then maybe they could do it again. They could get a time penalty if they're not careful. They've got to make sure they don't do it themselves. Sniffer getting a bit of oversteer as they come through into turn 9, but they keep it in a straight line at least. Charlie once again strong in the middle sector, managing to get slightly larger gap than most. And what the situation is here, like, if you think about it, they're trying to see how much they can extend, as we're actually going to probably get an overtake attempt. No, we're not. We're going to see Heisler back off. Interesting. That was very strange, as also Nifo is a bit confused at what just happened there. They want to try and have a go maybe on Heisler. Because of that, will they push for that move? ERS is having to be used, as Nifo just pressurizes Heisler into forcing them to use that energy. Heisler wants to try and stay ahead. That's actually very smart there from Nifo. He just needed to make sure that he hurried up his rival on track at the moment. And pushed them to the limit, of course, so they didn't lose out to Charlie in front. Now, what I wanted to say is what Charlie's probably looking at here is they're figuring out how much can I extend in this middle sector for when it gets to the later stages of the Grand Prix. Because if I can extend a certain gap, and I know that I'm not going to be overtaken by the time I get to the start-finish line, then I know whether I can stay ahead and not concede to try and win on DRS, or if I need to try and concede to win on DRS. Right now, Heischer's very close, and if they used a bit more energy, they might be good to go. But that being said, Charlie could also use energy up to the line. And if they've got the gap that they've been pulling right now, they might actually be absolutely fine to stay ahead and still finish in first across the line. Sorry for blundering there. So Charlie is really thinking about what's going on. Heischer is possibly happy with being where they are at the moment. They just can't catch themselves napping, otherwise it could go horribly wrong. Nifo is in two minds. They want to try and get ahead of Heischer so they have a better chance at winning this race, but they do have damage, so if they have damage, then maybe they wouldn't be able to hold on to Charlie as much. But that being said, if they're this close, then why wouldn't they be able to? They do seem to be a very quick car on the grid right now. Ricky, it's Sir Maxon, who's doing a great job to be in the position they're in, of course, with the tyre situation, but it's not really going to come to much. I'd assume at the end of this Grand Prix, those tyres are going to be absolutely dead, and it's all very, very close as Heischer was having a look on the inside line. Nifo's trying to put the pressure on. They almost had a look at making a move, but they just got it a little bit wrong, and he's now trying to pressurize Heischer into making the move. A defensive throw here for Charlie, who breaks as late as they can and gets the corner nicely, but that was very interesting. Nifo pressurizing Heischer into making that move into the first corner. It didn't really work out, but it looked like there was almost a bit of a moment and could have been contact. This is exactly what Nifo needs to do. He needs to try and win this Grand Prix. They have to do so if they want to be in this championship fight, and they can do. Despite having damage in that car, they can win this race. They can, which would be absolutely incredible. Charlie, of course, ahead, has the track advantage. Heischer has the DRS, but if Nifo can be as close as they are, then maybe, just maybe, it could work out. Heischer is now going to have to get a bit of a move on, it looks like, and they're going to go for that move. They turn off the battery as they back up once again. Is Nifo going to find the inside line? They are going to find the inside line. There's a bit of contact as the space is minimal. They want to try and hold the inside into turn 3, and they are going to do so, but they back off eventually, and they're not going to be in a position to make it. And as these guys fight at these later stages, it just makes it even more likely that Sir Maxon will be able to make a little bit of an unexpected comeback, despite being on this damn kind of worst tyre. And I say comeback, obviously he's still there and he hasn't really lost the gap, but he's just not going to have the advantage and not going to be able to fight as much as these guys will do. Now, Nifo, if they don't finish ahead of Charlie, they just have to finish ahead of Heischer and gain some points. The difference between P1 and P2 is 4 points. The difference between P2 and P3 is 2 points. So, if Nifo can gain at least something, then that would be a great advantage. And now it's all changed as Charlie gets the time penalty, as that will change absolutely everything in this Grand Prix. Now Heischer can sit behind and be in a very good position. They're going to stick their nose in and they might even have a go, but going very slow through the apex is Charlie and Nifo. All of a sudden Nifo is invited and they're going to try and have a go maybe on the outside, but no, they will not. ERS is going to be used as Heischer wants to try and stay in P2 in the train, but Charlie realizes it's not going to happen. They might not be able to win, so now it's their teammate that will take the advantage, and Nifo is trying to have a go, and it's looking very, very possible. This is exactly what needs to happen for the championship. Heischer just wants to score as many points as they can, and ultimately, if they score a decent amount, they will be leading the championship, and they will be leading by quite a margin as well. well, with Ticey not making it. Currently P2 by 1 point. That would be a very tasty advantage wherever they finish in this top 4 position. Of course, 12 points for 4th place. That would be mega to the title fight. Now Charlie has that time penalty. It's going to be virtually impossible for them to take the victory, but never say never. It could change very quickly. Heichler has got a lot to think about. They just need to try and stay in that P2. Charlie's going defensive. Heichler's sticking his nose in on the inside, and it will open the door. It will open the door big time as Niffo will go through. I think Simaxon might have been involved in a bit of contact. It kind of forced Niffo into a bit of action. Simaxon will not be able to get there, but Niffo is now sat in P2 and in the DRS range of their teammate. This could be it. Could the Mercedes have completed this race, and maybe it could be game over? I don't know what just happened, but it was all a little bit tricky. There was a bit of contact. I don't know really what could have been done more, but now it's a Mercedes 1-2, and I say it again, this season, it's just this time, it's a different pairing of drivers, and it's 7 tenths between Niffo and Heichler. Heichler is not happy. They need to relax and get back into this battle. They've got a lot of battery to play with, and they will be able to do so, but with a clear run into the first corner, both Mercedes are going to be an absolute powerhouse in a straight line. Charlie, are they going to lead? They're just going to hold on. That being said, it's going to be a phenomenal overtake attempt from Heichler, who is going to almost look at having a go for the win into the first corner on lap 34 as all of that ERS was being used. Could that be game over? I don't think that was the right call there for the McLaren driver. They're now sat back in P2, but they've got no battery to their name. That could have been a big problem. In the meantime, Simaxon has got a time penalty, so it is between Niffo and Heichler for the victory here in Sao Paulo. Niffo has the DRS, but it's not going to be straightforward because their teammate does unfortunately give Heichler DRS. So unless Charlie was able to break away and allow Niffo to get a clean run, it's not going to be so straightforward. As we just saw, Heichler wanted to be in P2, but they've sacrificed their entire battery to do so, and that will make it a little bit sweeter here for Niffo. Will Niffo try and save and hold off back behind? I think they will. It should be quite nice to do so, but it's not going to be so straightforward. There is Niffo going through turn 3. DRS available. Will they try and make it a P2, or are they going to let Heichler just relax at the moment? Heichler will relax. They'll sit in P2. They're going to have to save some battery at this stage of the Grand Prix if they want to take this victory. It is lap 35 and we're halfway through it, ready for the final lap. Who's going to win here in Interlagos? Charlie leads the way. Time penalty wise, it's not going to make sense. Of course, Simaxon has it as well. Further down the order, we've got Nabil and Jericho Willis fighting for position in the final few laps as well. We've also got Peanuts involved in this as they've gone for the pit stop, and now they let Frantic go. I don't know what happened, but we'll check in on this battle a little bit later on. It's the final lap of the Grand Prix, and it's all about the top 4. It's all about P2 and 3, because they're going to be the victors after this race. Is Heichler going to try and make it P1 into the first corner? They are going to do so. Niffo is going to be on the inside line as Heichler is trying to hold on, and that is a brilliant attempt on the overtake. Heichler leads the way. Is that going to be the right call? He tries to back off. He's trying to just bunch everyone back up and make sure he gets back into P2. He wants Charlie to go to the lead, but there's contact. Niffo is going to have the inside line, and they just have to back off. It's all very confusing. It's all very tight. I don't know what's going to go on. Ricky, DNFs. What a shame there for the Red Bull driver. But we have to focus on this. There's contact between the two, and Heichler is now going to be in P1, provisional P1. Niffo is going to take that position back and is going to be determined to try and make this work. DRS in the meantime is not going to be available as Charlie breaks away, and this is going to change absolutely everything. Is it going to be there for Heichler? I don't think it will be. Charlie is going to win in Brazil, but who will actually take it? It's still going to be Heichler. He takes victory in Sao Paulo. Charlie gets the P2 as that must have been a time penalty there for Nifo in the end. I did not get to see that one. Simaxon P4 with Igapro in P5. And that will be frantic right there in P6. Fastest lap is going to be looking to try and, who's looking for a fastest lap? It's going to be Peanuts, who wants to get the job done. Will cross the line with the man and see what they can do. Frantic crosses the line and will make that work. Peanuts, is it fastest? Is it purple? It isn't purple, unfortunately. I think Devon Young may have got that title to their name for the fastest lap. But Heichler takes victory. That was a hell of a battle. And I didn't know what was going to happen at all that race. We saw many drivers in the battle for the lead. We saw a few drop behind, but we saw a few stick with it. And now, your winner today and your championship leader, Heichler, Charlie, Nifo, finished the podium. Simaxon, then Igor, Frantic, Peanuts, Nabil, Jericho Willis, and Devon Young did get that fastest lap. Ricky Claster's finished, but unfortunately will not score any points. Then DNFing earlier on was Tom Robb and JJ. We go through the race director just in case, and we will go through the instance and pit stop section. Of course, we will probably need to do this. If you're on the full race replay, then we will see you next time for the Mexican Grand Prix.